My life isn't what I see on the news.
It's not a magazine ad
or a music video.
My life is unique. I am learning who I am,
where I stand,
how I fit in.
Real life is bigger than fantasy.
This is Real Life Teens.
I actually had a friend who committed suicide.
I've been to 3 different high schools, so every time I'm new to a high school, I deal with things by myself.
You can't be secluded to yourself. You can't lock yourself in your room, and you can't hold in your feelings. It's the worst thing you could do is hold in your feelings. Do never, ever hold in your feelings. You have to talk to someone, whether it be a friend, a psychiatrist, a parent, and sometimes it's hard to talk to a parent. That's why you have to find someone you're close to and tell them how you feel.
You know, knowing what you want to do in life is important. You know, find a passion.
I mean, I know a lot of psychotherapy has helped. I've done a lot of stuff just to kind of push my way through it. A lot of kids think they should just end it, but in a way it kind of just goes away after a while.
It does affect the whole community. Everybody in some way knows who, if it was a teen death, everybody knows who the kid was.
And there are times when, I'll just deal with it by myself, and I talk to my mom about it.
And I've come to realize that life is about balance. A lot of kids don't know that I feel like life, you need to balance everything. You can't be a book nerd, and you can't be some guy who just does nothing all day. You gotta go out there and live your life.
If a teen dies and he's around Nordhoff and stuff, pretty much everybody knows him, and it affects the whole community. You can feel it around just the feeling and the atmosphere of the town. They're down, and you can totally tell.
Suicidal and whatever. Yeah, but then you find people. Then it's easier to deal with.
You just have to push through it. Don't just commit suicide. Don't do the wrong thing. There's other ways to find the answers.
Of someone who passed away.
Because I've had a personal experience where I was actually with a friend that overdosed, and I was with him the whole night, and it seemed fine, everything. We're all having a good time. And then next thing you know, we come inside and he's on the floor not breathing. And it was a pretty tragic moment when you have a good friend of yours overdose in front of you. And not a lot of people really took from it, and it's just kind of scary when you know a lot of your friends that it could happen to them.
This is Real Life Teens.
If a teen commits suicide, everyone is affected. Family, relatives, close friends, teammates, neighbors, and often those who hardly knew the teen may undergo feelings of grief, confusion, and a feeling if only they had done something differently, the suicide may have been prevented. The reasons behind a teen suicide or attempted suicide are often complicated.
It's pretty likely that you're going to hear what drug they were using, and then you hear of a friend of yours using that same drug the next weekend or something, and it has an effect on you. I know of someone who passed away from it. I didn't know them, but my family was friends with their family, and their family is part of the community and pretty involved, and it's heavy. It's hard to deal with.
I'd have to say that after we hear about something tragic, as far as someone dying, we get taken aback for a few minutes, and then the next weekend we're going out doing our thing again.
Teen suicide attempts and suicide deaths escalate during adolescence. According to many documented studies, suicide is the third leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, followed by deaths by accident and homicide.
I never thought about suicide, but it was really depressing.
Teen suicide rates differ for teen boys and for teen girls. Teen girls contemplate and attempt suicide about twice as often as boys, and girls usually attempt suicide by overdosing on drugs, cutting, or a combination of drugs and alcohol.
You just have to push through it. Don't just commit suicide. Don't do the wrong thing. There's other ways to find the answers.
Teen boys are more effective in committing suicide, actually about 4 times as often as girls. Teen boys are more prone to use more lethal methods, such as guns, knives, hanging, or jumping from heights.
They helped me out with the suicide thing because I thought to myself, how would my mom feel about that, and like not letting me get to that point of actually doing it.
Being a teen is a great time in a young person's life, but it can also be a time of uncertainty, confusion, and anxiety. Peer pressure and social pressures to fit in, achieve academic results, and to behave and perform responsibly are all expectations set not only by the teen, but by others as well.
She was my best friend in 6th grade, and I think she moved away during 8th grade, and we didn't hear about her, and she was in a mental institute. And her mom she didn't like her, and she hung herself while she was in the asylum, right the day before 8th grade graduation. And at first I was like, oh, that's sad, but after a while I realized that she had big problems.
Teen years are also the time of discovering puberty and sexual feelings, a need to establish self-identity and self-worth. These feelings and emotions often conflict with achievements demanded by family, friends, and society.
I don't know, I'm very open with my parents, and I would rather not lie about anything, but sometimes it's difficult because you know what they're going to say, and if you tell them what they don't want to hear, it's not going to go over well with your parents.
Teens with a support network of friends, family, church groups, peer groups, sports or music, and other extracurricular activities give teens an outlet to deal with day-to-day anxiety and frustrations.
It's very important to talk about how you feel, especially among friends. Because if you're around people that you trust, you can talk about your problems more openly with them if you trust them.
If they're going through hard times or something, you probably are as well. So, obviously they're probably not going to be the same, but it's still hard on you and everything.
If I'm upset about something, I know exactly who to turn to, whether it's my friends or my mom, who's there for me thick and thin, and we don't exactly see eye to eye. I mean, parents and kids argue all the time.
To stop thoughts of suicide or thinking your life is so terrible, you really need to have a really strong support system of friends.
I've been to 3 different high schools, so every time I'm new to a high school, I deal with things by myself because, I don't have close friends.
Symptoms that increase the risk of suicide among teens include a psychological disorder, especially depression, bipolar disorder, alcohol and drug use, emotional or sexual anxiety.
The reason why I think teens commit suicide is they're very sad and very depressed. It's a hard world out there. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to be nice to you. I learned it the hard way myself, just walking every day on the street. People are not nice. And I think teens get into that mental state of mind, especially through high school.
Feelings of panic, irritability, anxiety, uncontrolled anger, or agitation.
My sister obviously got extremely angry, and then she just lost it. She just lost control.
There's a lot of causes to why teens could be depressed. It could be anything, anything that could put them down. Someone could make fun of them, and that hurts their feelings, or just a bad day.
Feelings of hopelessness, feelings of lack of self-worth and loneliness that often accompany depression.
Difficult to retain while everyone else is on your back and pushing you down.
My grades dropped at the end of last year, and it's just a really tough thing to go through.
By example, a teen who experienced violence, alcoholism, or drug abuse at home, or who feels that they do not fit in with peers and is exposed to these unhealthy situations are more likely to experience such feelings.
But there's no one to talk to about problems at home or just dealing with giant issues, and it seems like there's so many people that just, I don't know, I went to my friends, but I don't know, it was hard to deal with everything and just talking about it.
It could be anything, anything that could put them down. Someone could make fun of them, and that hurts their feelings.
a previous suicide attempt, a family history of depression, alcohol, drug abuse, or suicide. Sometimes depressive illnesses may have a genetic history that can carry on through generations.
It takes a toll on the entire family.
Having suffered physical, mental, or sexual abuse, dealing with homosexuality, obesity, physical disabilities in an unsupported family or peer group, or physical or internet bullying originating from a social or school environment.
Well, there are many people here who have the pressures of society, and so eventually they just crack under pressure and just feel that they have no use of living.
According to studies, 95% of teens who die by suicide suffer from some kind of psychological disorder at the time of suicide.
Depression, I mean, especially deep depression, I've definitely gone through that. It's thoughts about suicide, it's not really suicide, it's more of why am I here, what is my purpose.
Teen suicide often occurs during or following a traumatic life event, such as failure at school, either real or perceived, a collapse or breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, death of a loved one, a divorce, an arrest in the family, financial ruin, or a major family conflict.
I think teens even think about suicide is either, divorce is a big thing nowadays among parents.
Teens who are contemplating suicide may express themselves with talking about hurting themselves or suicide or death in general, talking about going away or you'll never see me again.
She knew what she was doing was wrong, kind of, slowly, through the time that I knew her, it got worse.
Talk about feeling hopeless, insignificant, useless, or feeling guilty. Staying away from family or friends. Giving up the desire to participate in favored things or activities. Become lonely and isolated from friends. Have trouble concentrating, thinking clearly, and avoiding personal conversations. Experience changes in eating or sleeping habits. Self-destructive behavior, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, cutting or driving too fast, for example.
I really want to talk about depression and suicide. I have a lot of friends that deal with depression, including myself. And one warning sign to find, if your friend's depressed or something, and you want to find out what's wrong with them, a good warning sign to know that they're depressed, if you're hanging out with them and they're just they're all down, something's wrong with them, you talk to them. I kind of want to talk about it.
What can you do if someone you know has attempted or committed suicide?
I know that I can change somebody's life by just being positive. If you see somebody in the hall crying, you going up and helping them, talking to them will change, could actually change their life, because they could be thinking about suicide, or they could have problems with drugs and abuse like we've talked about. And so just talking with them could help them understand that people do go through it with them, so it could change their lives.
First, realize that everyone has many emotions. Often teens feel guilty, especially teens who feel they could have done something to prevent the suicide or attempted suicide by identifying their friend's behavior and words a little better.
I think if anything, maybe we should have told a teacher sooner about it.
Other teens become angry with the person who committed or attempted suicide for behaving so selfishly and hurting everyone around them. Still, others say that they could care less and show no emotion whatsoever. These reactions, although entirely different, are equally appropriate. There is no right or wrong way to feel. A teen that attempts suicide and survives may find that others may be afraid or uncomfortable about talking with him or her about it. This is a time when the teen desperately needs to feel connected to others.
We just ended up sitting there and crying in the hall together. And it kind of made me feel so much better knowing that my teacher understood exactly what I was going through. And it was kind of strange because there was a lot of other episodes where I was finding myself crying with teachers over this because they were dealing with it too. And it kind of brought me a lot closer with a lot of my teachers.
Understand that it's normal to feel guilty and to question how this could have happened or how you could have helped avoid the situation. But it's also more important to realize that you may never get the answers you are looking for.
Or a lot of times people don't even know why they want to commit suicide. I would just say a lot of times it's just a chemical imbalance, and you just, in a way, you don't know what's going on in your life. You just feel like you're doing bad in school. I mean, your friends aren't that great. So in a way, it's just like, oh, little things here and there kind of add up after a while, and you don't want to live anymore.
Realize you are not alone. Counseling, school resources, and support groups can help you tremendously. When talking to a teenage person who is contemplating suicide, it is vital to take the threat seriously. 75% of all suicides have given some warning of their intentions to a friend or family member. Major depression interferes with day-to-day normal activities such as eating and sleeping. A person experiencing a serious depression feels depressed almost every day.
You wake up and you're a negative person in the morning, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be here, I want to go back to sleep, or blah, 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 blah. You're gonna, when you wake up and you act that way, your day is gonna be like, I want to go back to sleep.
Bipolar disorder is another type of mood swing and is manifested by episodes of low-energy depression like loneliness, sadness, and hopelessness, and high-energy mania, anxiety, irritability, and sudden or explosive temper. Depressed teens have described themselves as feeling hopeless about everything, or feeling that nothing, including their life, is worth the effort. The good news is that professionals can help someone with depression. Depression can be successfully treated in more than 80% of the people who have it. But if it goes untreated, depression can be deadly. It's the #1 cause of suicide.
Kids are even ashamed to say they've been going to therapy. They keep it a secret. They get mad when their parents suggest it. They think that something's wrong with them. But everyone, even the most normal person, can use therapy. Just think of it as a really knowledgeable friend who's not going to judge you, who's not biased towards anything. They can keep your secrets. You can tell them anything, and it's done nothing but help me. And I know that it's a tool that kids are not aware of.
They honestly believe that they are worthless and no good, that the world is just too difficult a place, and that they are helpless and can't do anything about it.
Value life. It's not a game, so make right choices.
Things like therapy and talking to people and even medication if you need it, it's all there to help you. So don't feel like you're alone in the world and that there's no hope, because that's what a lot of teens feel like, and they end up doing things to instead of they go through like cutting themselves, taking drugs to get out of their feelings. But I mean the best way and the safest, most permanent way is to go to therapy, do something about it.